Okay, good evening. This is the June 22nd Planning Board meeting. First, 21st. The first thing I was going to discuss was actually, I recently became chairman, and I wasn't expecting it, and I should have recognized Dan Andrade for all his years of service. He's done a fantastic job, and I hope I could do half the job he's done. But I'm going to wait till Dan's here, just so he knows he's been appreciated by the entire board and a lot of people that have come in front of us. The first public hearing is Cornerstone Estates. It's a subdivision off King Street, and we have a letter that says, "Dear board members, on behalf of the owner and applicant, Shamrock Realty LLC, we are requesting that the board grant us a continuance of our scheduled public hearing on June 21st, 2018. We would like to have our hearing continue to the next scheduled planning board meeting, which is going to be July 19th. So I guess I'd make a motion, we continue it to, continue it to July 19th at 6 o'clock.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the second thing on the agenda is Lee Castagnetti, Raynham Preserve East Yield Plan. That's a plan off Bayberry Road in Raynham, part of the old Bassett Knoll Estates. My sister has some land and abuts that, and she's involved in it. So I'm going to walk out of the room right now and leave it to Vice Chairman Burke Fountain.
Chris, that isn't actually till 6:15, so if you'd like to get 10 minutes worth of other things done.
Okay, I didn't know if, it's not a public hearing, so I didn't think it mattered. We could get other things done, though. Invoices and bills, have they all been done?
We have the invoices done, we don't have minutes done.
Minutes? Burke, did
I
you
make
have
a
chance?
motion, we waive the reading and accept the minutes of May 3, 2018, May 17, 2018, and June 7, 2018.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I could do one of planning board coordinator or spread update, anything that's not that lengthy.
Our Serpent meeting is next week, so I don't have
Okay,
anything
so
yet.
that's not that lengthy.
Nope.
Bob, anything you want
Most of the things I'm going to discuss, we're going to actually be discussing during the course of the meeting.
to, okay.
Most of them are the bond reduction requests, or the bond releases and the final office agreement. So other than that,
Okay, well, under correspondence, yes, I could discuss that. There's correspondence from HNTB Corporation and Mass DOT regarding Route 138 from King Philip to the Raynham Easton Town Line, that they're going to do road improvements, which is going to include, repaving that whole entire section, and as well as limited accommodations for pedestrian and bicycles. Additionally, there are two intersections along the project corridor, 138 Carver Street and 138 Elm Street, which have been identified as 2012-2014 Highway Safety Improvement Program. Isn't it 2018 already? But they're actually going to get out there and do some intersection improvements and some repaving and grinding of 138 from King Philip all the way to Easton.
Bob, you're at the same meeting I was, right?
Yeah,
First of all, they said that they were going to go from, excuse me, King Philip Street, skip over the intersection at Center, continue up and skip over the overpass, and then end up at Robeson Street. And that was a $5 million project, and in order to go all the way up to Easton, that was going to be a $10 million project. And that was going to happen by 2021. So I don't know.
Well, this is allegedly.
Allegedly.
So this is.
Oh, okay,
This is
I missed
what their
that.
letter's claiming. They're going to start on this pretty much right away.
I guess my only comment is, great, if they're going to do it sooner, great.
I think I read something about it being a cement road, and they
Yeah.
have concerns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
below that pavement is concrete, and they're very concerned about
From
that.
So will they
From
have
white
to
line
take
to
that
white
out?
line, no, from white line to white line is steel reinforced concrete, 12 inches thick. And, because every time you have to do a crossing, you have to use flowable fill and all that, but that's a foot of steel reinforced concrete under the pavement. From what he's talking, they're gonna be milling pavement, they're not gonna get down to the concrete, so they'd be milling, a few inches of pavement.
They don't want to touch the concrete. 'cause
No.
They said
No.
that'd be a can of worms.
No,
Yeah.
so they mill a few inches out, bring a few inches back, and just take care of some of the damage.
So that's good news to me, I mean, because we left that other meeting, we were saying, geez, we got 4 more years.
Yeah, meeting we went to last month, and they were only at 25% design, so.
Yeah, and that was for mid-August was the 25%
Right.
design review.
Well, that was all I had for correspondence.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah.
do have one thing to share with you.
Yeah.
That's not on the agenda. We did have a department head preliminary submission meeting for that property at 294 Route 44, the one that's right across the street from the entrance to the Shaw's Plaza.
The little house?
That abandoned house. There is a gentleman who is looking to purchase the property and build a jewelry store. Small
Oh, yeah.
footprint, 4,000 square feet, small parking lot, about 18 or 19 spaces. There are a lot of wetlands issues, and there's a flood zone issue they're dealing with, conservation. But it looks like that's going to move forward, so that will be in front of this board, I would imagine, as quick as they get through conservation, maybe as soon as August or September.
They went to conservation last night. That was actually my Aunt Marion that refused to move. So the entire 44 got built all around her. And she passed.
Couple of years now.
Yeah, 2 years ago now. And it's my cousin's own it. Well, he's staying out of that. That's finished jewels. And for when it's a small site, you can't do much with it. But so
Yeah, it's
pretty
had a
appropriate.
lot of constraints because of the size of the lot and because of the river that's behind it and the wetlands, but they're going to give it a shot and try to make something out of that.
I assume it's zoned properly.
It's business zone all the way.
My first month or so, like my first summer living in Raynham, we lived in a 20 by 20 tent, me and Frank and my cousins, and right on the river. And that's how we got introduced to Raynham. 44 was a lot different back then.
But
How much frontage does it have?
it's got adequate frontage. It has at least 150, I believe. It's like 0.52 acres.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't, my cousin asked me to go to the meeting. I looked at the plan, but yeah, it went in front of the conservation for NANRAD last night just to get their resource areas determined. And they told me there was no issue.
Seems like the whole parcel, or any part they're gonna use would have to be built up. Filled.
Probably, yeah.
It looks like
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it has a lot of design constraints, but
Yeah.
get a good engineer who can do about anything.
Well, they're in a zone, if we build a structure, it'll be in a zone A, I believe, flood zone, which would require them to elevate, and then they'll have probably flood windows in the basement. No utilities in the basement will have to be elevated. So there'll be a couple things that they'll have to do that are different because of the zone that it's in. But it's definitely something that's doable.
Okay.
They ought to buy the empty jewelry store across the
Yeah,
street.
across the street. We mentioned that last time, I don't know why. It's got all the buzzers to lock and unlock the doors and everything.
It'll
It's good.
It'll clean it up.
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
The lot's
area.
deceiving because there's so much growth in front there. It doesn't look like it's very big. If you take all that down, I guess you got the frontage you need.
She was a character, I'll tell you that, you know. But when that super duper flood they had several years ago, it was like a 500-year flood, it actually come up to the house. And Jeff Kelleher and the fire department were telling me they went and got her out of there. She was all set. She's like, I'm good. But they pulled her out with a pistol. We can, I guess, go with Mr. Castanetti now, even though it's not 6:15. I really
Yeah, it's getting pretty close.
don't really have anything else on the agenda to, unless you want to pop ahead with O'Reilly Auto Parts Store bond reduction.
I can take up a few more minutes. I do
Okay.
have a final report from Niche Engineering on the Meineke Muffler location, which had a couple of outstanding issues. They have asked for a final bond release and a final occupancy permit, and the report, which I'll submit to you, is from Steve Ventresca from Neach Engineering, and they confirmed that all the improvements that were approved on the plan have been 100% completed, and they recommend a full bond release and a full occupancy permit. And this is Meineke Muffler on Route 44.
It looks good.
Yeah, it came up good.
I went over this with Bob a couple days ago, and according to Nich's letter, as well as Bob, yeah, all the issues have been completed, and the bond should be released.
This is their report, and then the bond release, let's zero it out in the second page.
Yeah. If anyone wants to make a motion.
Maureen, you know how much money we're holding?
On Meineke for the bond?
Yeah.
I do not.
Okay.
It's under 10 grand, I believe it's $8,000 or $9,000.
Well, I make a motion that Meineke at, what's he at, 1314 New State Highway, based on the report of Niche Engineering and our building inspector, that we release any and all money being held in a bond.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Um,
What you want this
Can we
morning?
include to release their revolving account too, so I can get that done?
Yes, I meant to say that.
I thought so. Thanks.
Yeah, slide that down.
Your turn. You all right, young lady?
Anything else, Bob, or no, you want anything to wait? Huh?
That's all I can think of right now.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave the room and leave things in the capable hands of Vice Chairman Dirk Fountain.
Okay. Mr. Castagnetti. Now, I missed a meeting, so I missed
Yeah.
some of the discussions, so you're going to have to go really slow.
We'll recap
Okay.
what it transpired
All right.
before. Yeah. These are, we had submitted the initial kind of raw status of the yield plan.
Now, you've got,
These are a bit more complete.
you've got Preserve East and Preserve West, I presume.
Just preserved.
Just,
There's the
there's no east and west anymore?
No, just,
Okay.
west is just, is big, is just Raynham Preserve, and then we just tag this east just to differentiate it from,
Okay, all
From
right.
the
Sign
from the
says- just says
original.
preserved at the sign. I was by there.
Yeah. You may recall that one of the...
Well, I guess for the folks at home, first
Yes.
of all, where are we in town? What's the street, what street is it
We're
off
at the end
of?
of, Lee Castagnetti, representing Long Built Homes, the prospective applicant, 158 Charles McCombs Boulevard in New Bedford, Mass. And we are at the end of Bayberry Road.
Okay,
And when we were here a couple of months ago at this juncture, at a hearing that you were present, we were here on a preliminary plan for the Raynham Preserve East to establish that as a 24-lot subdivision. And at the time, on behalf of his sister, Frank Gallagher, had spoken regarding providing access to his sister's land as part of our subdivision layout, which was not shown on that plan. And you specifically, Burke, had suggested that rather than approach this in any kind of a confrontational way,
confrontational way.
that perhaps we just see what we could do to make a deal and make the whole thing work harmoniously, which we in fact did.
Good.
So we were here last meeting to present the plan, to show the benefits of the plan as a combined OSPD, which ended up actually shortening the road. Despite adding 4 lots, it actually shortened the road from our OSPD by 672 feet. So it's a vastly improved plan. It provides for better drainage facilities, and ultimately, 672 less feet of road that the town will ultimately have to take and maintain. So when we left that meeting, it was, we were requested to come forward with a yield plan, a conventional yield plan showing that the 28 lots were in fact valid, 28 valid lots before proceeding with with an OS, which is what our intention has been all along, to proceed with it as an OSPD. So this is the yield, this is the proposed yield plan
Okay.
to get your confirmation that you agree that it's that it is in fact a valid 28 lots, so that we can then proceed with a special permit and an OSPD filing.
And these lots are realistic? They don't have wetlands issues? and
They
so
are.
on?
We have, this had come up earlier on when we submitted our original conventional plan, and we had done more specific plans on the ones that were somewhat questionable, that had the wetlands. And I don't, do you have these on 11 by 17s, or?
That's in the package.
Yeah.
On sheet C 2.4.
Thank you.
Evan Watson from Prime Engineering with Longville Homes. Just had a quick comment. These are the same lots that were presented to you last time, with the exception of lot 27. We pulled over the lot line a little bit to allow for access to the proposed detention basin, which is a requirement, so, but everything still works out.
Okay. Bob, you agree these lots are, or do we have any that are questionable?
Yeah, I have a question on 25, 26, 27, and 28. Do they have adequate upland to be considered a buildable lot? I'm just looking at sheet C 2.0, and then just looking at the wetlands lines that you show on there. Has the calculations of upland been done on those lots to meet the bylaw?
Yes, so on, we have, see on lot 27, we have,
Sorry if I can't read it this small print.
yep, no, I understand. We have upland area of 32,500 square feet. Lot 26 is 32,170 feet.
So that's all that's required, 80% of 40,000, so.
And then the last lot is upland area 32,005 square feet of upland.
The area around Lot 26, you show a detention basin and wetland. That is not part of any lot?
That was part of its own lot, so it was separated per your bylaw. That
Okay.
requires that detention basins and access to are on their own facility, or on their own lot.
Okay. I don't know if I have the right subdivision. Was there anything about a cemetery? No signs of any cemetery, okay.
No, I haven't heard from the cemetery. That was Corners.
I knew it was one of them. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Escape that one.
I'm telling you, we gotta get breaking nameplate.
Always. Cemeteries, artifacts. Try to avoid those. And you may recall, this was originally the 30-lot subdivision that was part of the original Bassett Knoll Estates.
Mm-hmm, yep. Do you have any other questions, Bob?
Looking at the plans, looks like all the lots conform, so.
I seem to.
They have 28 lots conventionally.
John, Russ, any questions?
Oh, it's good.
No.
Okay.
Just last time.
Okay. It appears to be in order. Now you have, what else do you want to show us?
That's pretty much it.
That's it for tonight?
We do want to, though, pursuant to Dan's suggestion at the last, at that last hearing, when we were discussing the road length, and he had strongly suggested that when we get to this stage, and this is part of your package, where is that?
Sheet 3.0.
C 3.0.
And this is the same plan that we had presented last time to show the improvement between what our original 24-lot OSPD plan was and how much of an improved plan it was, actually adding the 4 lots and shortening the overall length of the road. And nonetheless, the road is still longer than the bylaw currently allows, but under the preliminary plan filing, it was agreed that the grandfathering from that first subdivision would be honored. And Dan had suggested that when we get to this stage, that we should just reaffirm that the length of the road shown on our proposed OSPD is acceptable and will be granted a waiver.
Lee, maybe you can explain to Burke how you integrated the Perry land into this.
Sure.
Is that a dotted line that I see?
It is.
Top?
It is, exactly.
Okay.
And what it enabled us to do, just picking up that, as you can see, that little notch, the V, on the westerly.
And now
They got a road right there, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It enabled us to bring that road more quickly to the east.
Mhm.
So we actually improved the environmental.
Yeah, you got away
impact.
from the wetlands.
And exactly, we were able to
Yeah.
much more quickly get it away from the wetlands, provide an additional strip of open space along 495, keeping that area heavily treed, which I think is a plus for everybody, certainly for the homeowners, but I think for the town, keeping the residents shielded from that. And just, as you can see, just provided for a greatly improved overall layout and development.
Will you own up to the zoning district line between light industrial residential?
Yeah, the open space will be conveyed either to the town or to an HOA.
Okay,
The town has, through the Conservation Commission, that the Conservation Commission has preliminarily agreed with certain conditions that we were happy to meet to take title to the open space for Raynham Preserve. And this, the open space abuts this. So when we get to that point with this, we'll talk to them about whether or not they would want to take title to this as well.
okay. And to the north, Bayberry Road. It looks to be a cul-de-sac just off of this plan.
That's this. Yeah,
Yes.
going towards the west, there is yeah, I believe that geometry you referred to as a cul-de-sac is a paper street that was created to create a lot that does not have adequate frontage along Bayberry Road.
Okay,
And I'm sure Frank Gallagher might know a little bit more about that, but.
Yeah, actually, that one
Oh, you didn't do it?
I noticed on the plan, but I wasn't involved in that.
Okay, all right.
But that, I was guessing that they probably put it in to get that frontage one way or another.
So there's only one house on the end of that. It's basically developed as a driveway.
okay. Raynham Investment to the west,
Yes.
what is that?
That's part of the open space parcel. Raynham Investment Realty Trust is who we acquired the,
The cars.
Oh,
the
okay.
Bassett Knoll Estates, now Raynham Preserve subdivision, was acquired from Raynham Investment Realty Trust, which you know Nick Harris as the representative party.
Yep, okay.
But this is part of the open space. This is not developable land.
It's open space towards this subdivision
No,
or the
it's
other
already committed
subdivision?
toward-
Okay.
Raynham Preserve. Yeah, the perimeter, other than the addition of the dotted line here of the Perryland, everything else you see in the perimeter here is the same land that was the original 30-lot subdivision. So that's all
Yeah.
self-contained.
That was this.
Oh, okay, all right.
So none of this land was used to credit the open space for the current Raynham Preserve. That's all separated.
All right. Well, what would you like us to do? Make a motion, perhaps, that we accept your yield plan?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of plans to choose from. I don't know if there's any difference between them.
The yield plan would be the C 2.0, right?
What's this one that I've got?
That was one, it's the same version.
It
We just-
looks about the same.
It's the exact same. We just submitted that raw, and then
Okay.
we're able to put together a more comprehensive package for presentation tonight. But that's the exact same plan that you have here.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the plan entitled Conventional Subdivision Plan, the Raynham Preserve East, by four long-built homes by Prime Engineering, dated June 11, 2018, as an accepted yield plan only. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the yield plan part? No? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Do we need to do anything official on the
Well,
length of road?
yeah, we could do that. I make a motion that we, and I'll take any help you want to give me on this, Mr. Castagnetti, since you're the one who wants the wording, that we agree that because this is taken, this Raynham Preserve East subdivision is taken from a former approved subdivision, and that this road will be no longer than the previously approved road in subdivision plan, that we agree that the dead-end length bylaw is waived. That do it?
Perfect.
Very good. I'll
Any-
second that.
Second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, now you're going to go do a plan,
Fully designed plan,
okay?
yes. Thank you.
All right, and you want a release of 3 lots.
Yes.
What's that all about?
I'm not sure what happened on the misunderstanding, but we were working off of a July 1 date. We thought when we got the 5 lots released the last time, we thought it had been for July 1, and Bob, when we went in to get, I think it was when we went in to get a permit, when Garrett actually went to submit a permit, Bob had pointed out that the date of the first permit was actually dated July 27th. And we had been committing, purchases and sales to dates that were tied into July 1. I'm not sure. I'm not saying this to, just when I went in and made the request to Maureen, she had the same understanding I did, that it was July 1 that was the operative date. So it was, I don't know where my misunderstanding or mistake came from, but it was always somewhere along the lines. We thought we were working off a July 1 date. Just to be able to fulfill our obligations to our buyers and be working off that July 1 date, we were asking for an acceleration of 3. Two lots actually would be adequate.
you have anything you'd like to say?
When Lee came in a month or so ago and asked for 5 more, I told him he should ask for 10, but he didn't listen to me. He only asked for 5. I don't think that's an issue. I do think you have a letter from the highway superintendent. He's very concerned about the lack of progress on the detention basins. So he wants it to be known at tonight's meeting. If he has no problem with releasing, three more lots, but he will have a problem when it comes time to release the next phase if there's not substantial improvement in the detention basins, both the first one and the second one. So he wanted me to make that known to you, Lee, that he's got a severe concern that it hasn't gone the way he was told it was going to go. So.
Do you know when the last time was that he was out there?
Recently, he submitted some pictures, and Nietzsche has been out there looking at things because you're requesting a bond reduction, so.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Do you have his letter?
I do.
Okay.
So that being said, the board needs to be aware that moving forward, come the end of July or August, when they're looking for phase 2 to be fully released, that there needs to be substantial improvement in.
Yeah,
And
but
those two.
he's done a considerable amount of work on the first pond. It's fully graded out, it's been, all the remedial work's been done.
Yeah, but I think he needs to make Mr. Buckley happy, and I don't think he's done that yet, so.
Okay, but the condition of the pond, I don't know if you've seen it, but the condition of the pond, I don't really know what more he can do there. He's got to seed it, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I think Mr. Buckley's concerned that it's not stabilized. It needs to be seeded, it needs to be watered on a weekly or bi-weekly or whatever basis in order for the grass to grow and stabilize it. So I think you need to work closely with him.
But the second pond is pretty much shaped up, and they're getting ready to loam it next week.
Yeah, I mean,
So
shaped up and completed and seeded are two different things, especially if you.
We want the vegetation growing.
Right, but he's got to get it shaped before he can apply the loam, and it's almost, that part, it's almost complete, and the loam's in
You
place.
can have that argument with Mr. Buckley.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
telling you what he told me.
But I'm fully aware of it. I've been in conversation with Mr. Harris on an ongoing basis about the urgency to get the pond up in proper condition, so he's fully aware of it.
I don't think urgent is in his vocabulary.
I would have to say that there's some degree of accuracy to that, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what lots are you looking for?
They're not specific lots. I think we'd agreed the last time that it was just any 3 lots out of the phase, this next phase on Sparrow Way. Yeah. Yeah, and they all would be they all are on Sparrow Way.
He already has 3 or 4 houses on Sparrow, and he wants to continue on that road.
All right. Is that okay with you, that loose, any 3 that he chooses? Okay.
I believe that's the way it was in the first 5.
It was, that I would give you the plan, with the marketing plan, which I did, that you could track the lots as they were being doled out.
Well, can I ask the question one more time while we have, is 3 enough?
Yes. Is July 27th is the date, correct?
Yeah,
That the next
You
phase,
sure you don't want to ask for 5, in case they're still 5 weeks away?
3 is, we're good.
Okay?
Okay, is that your final answer?
Even if we need them, I won't be back.
Well, you won't be back because we won't be here, so,
Yeah,
okay.
3 will do.
Now, this is,
If you want to entertain 5 and be safe, that's.
that was
take that time.
Raynham Preserve East. Now, are we about to vote on Raynham Preserve Phase 1A, or how should I refer to this?
We actually had changed, because of the, this goes back several months, I had submitted a letter requesting identification of the different phases as Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. And the reason being was that your decision identified the 2 affordable lots per phase, and it identified it as 3 phases. And throughout the decision, there was different references to different phases. So I thought it was better for everybody if we just unified the reference to phase and we all understood what it was. So currently, we're talking about Phase 2.
Do Do you agree with that? Okay. I make a motion then that we allow the release of 3 lots, any 3 lots that you choose, on Sparrow Lane.
Sparrow Way.
Sparrow Way in Phase 2 of the subdivision. And with your recognizing there will be no further releases until the basins are vegetated to the satisfaction of the highway superintendent.
Can we make it 5 then, if that's the condition? This was just relating to the phasing. This was to bypass the phasing, not the actual physical conditions out there, but if we're
Well,
going to...
you've already implied you're okay with 5.
That's,
I think that's fine. He's gonna come back for a formal release of Phase 2 anyways, for more lots. You probably should get on the agenda for the July 19th meeting, so that,
well, I wouldn't have come back. I would have assumed that the phasing, other than me asking to accelerate it, that the rest of the phasing was automatic based on the year-to-year.
I don't know, is that the way we do it? That's the way we've done it in the past?
That's the way the permit reads.
I'll have to look into that. We'll talk about that next
Okay.
week.
It was 20 per year.
I don't have a problem with five more lots.
Okay. I amend my motion, which hasn't been seconded yet, from 3 to 5. And do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Everybody okay with it? All in favor?
Aye.
So be it.
Okay. Now, you also want a bond reduction.
Actually, that's not my request.
That's not you.
No. I know that I did receive those. We're obviously, intertwined. And I know that Nick had told me that he had requested, and he had met out there with I'm not sure who the representative from Niche was, but he met with people from Niche. And he had given me a number that he thought that they had agreed to a reduction that was significantly more than that.
Yeah, and these are not big numbers
And
for reductions.
And when Maureen was kind enough to send that to us, I had forwarded an email to him and asking him if this was consistent with what his expectations were, and he said that, it was not. And then I asked him, I said, well, I'm going to be there tonight, how do you want to handle it? And he never responded to me, so I guess I would say that, they've got the author there indicating that they're okay with that reduction, so I guess they're acknowledging that work is done, so he can deal with Niche, on whatever differences he has with how
Well,
much more
so
it should be.
should we take a vote and release the small amount of money?
Yeah.
Or
That's-
should we table it?
I think it would be appropriate, based on the fact that they're acknowledging that the
So-
revised amounts are correct at this juncture, to just, to
it.
reduce it,
Okay.
yeah.
Engineering was done, we've gone through the motions to give it a reduction. I would say, if you're comfortable with it, just release what they've,
Well, I was going to ask you that very question. You're okay with it?
well, like I said,
Based on-
if we have the engineers do the work and do the numbers, so,
Okay.
I know it's not a lot of money, but I guess every little bit helps, right?
Nonetheless, yes.
Okay. So, our engineers call it Phase 1A and Phase 1B. What should I be calling it?
That is Phase 1 and Phase 2.
So 1B is now 2?
2, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you two have these papers also? Okay. Either of you have any questions, comments on them?
No.
Okay.
This is roughly 22,000, and that one is,
Yeah. I think 27 or something, yeah.
All right. We have been requested regarding Raynham Preserve Phase 1, also known as Phase 1A, and Phase 2, formerly known as Phase 1B, to recommend, to release some of the money that we are holding. And based on that, we went to our engineer, who did a site review and cost estimate, and I have 2 letters dated June 21, 2018 by Niche Engineering regarding Phase 1, also known as Phase 1A. I would recommend and ask for a vote that we reduce the amount we are holding from $363,923 to $341,555. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And second letter, June 21, 2018, from Niche Engineering. This is on, I guess, formerly Phase 1B, now known as Phase 2, that are the money we are holding be reduced from $464,425 to $437,027.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else we can do for you?
That's it for tonight.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Can we get Chris back in?
Have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Maureen, I see we have plans for endorsement, and I saw some plans sitting in the other room.
Yeah.
That's for us when we finish this, okay?
Yeah.
We are done with Mr. Castagnetti at 6:15, so we're ready for 6:20.
Oh, so you did the bond reduction, all that other stuff?
I did that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, well, now that I'm back in the saddle, I just want to point out I just noticed that the annual report of the town is out, and it's dedicated to none other,
Dennis Breen.
Gordon Luciano.
Oh, Gordon Luciano.
He's done quite a bit for the town. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But on to bigger and better things. Lorraine Nickerson, Article 24 revisions. I thought if it's okay with Lorraine, she's still out in the hall, we would take O'Reilly Auto Parts out of order to let them get out of here. They want a bond reduction, and is there correspondence on that?
Yeah, I don't have it.
I didn't think I saw it, but
I didn't see anything.
Mr. Chairman, the last correspondence we had from Beach Engineering is dated June 5th. Back on June 5th, they did their last inspection of the property, and they had a couple of issues with sediment and some soil that didn't take root, and an as-built plan, final as-built plan that didn't have some of the underground utilities in it. So I've had some back and forth conversations with the gentleman from Pincus Construction, I believe his name is Mike. He told me that they were going to have everything resolved today, and you were going to bring some information to you to the board today? As far as the completion of those items that were on that report. And then you can go from there.
have you been out there?
I have not seen what's out there. I was waiting to get a report tonight, and then I can do that tomorrow morning. If that's okay with you, we can do something that's contingent on my inspection.
Okay, well, let's, I guess I'd make a motion then. You want, this would be at full complete, down to zero.
Down to zero and a full occupancy permit right now, they have a 10.
Okay, well, based on, Bob's word and his ability, I would make a motion that,
We have someone from
Yeah, right.
Pincus
Oh, okay.
Construction who John requested that someone come here and.
Yeah, I just have a quick, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I brought this up a number of times.
Well, let's get his name and get him up
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry, yeah, come on up.
My name's Steve Hempher. I'm the superintendent that built the building.
I'm sorry, Steve, what?
Hempher.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, as I said, I've been accused of beating a dead horse on this thing here, but I guess I just wanted to make the point. Back on March 15th, you and another gentleman were here. You were looking for a temporary occupancy permit.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, Bob was on vacation. And what we told you very specifically was that it would be okay for the temporary occupancy permit, assuming when Bob got back on Tuesday specifically, he would go out there and check it out and give you the okay. That you guys went to the fire department and got your and opened up that Saturday.
I didn't open it up. I was there. The fire department came in. I have to have them walk my job.
Who went to the fire department?
I had the fire department come out. They got to check the fire alarm. That's when they were out there. And he asked me about the knock box. I had to go get a knock box. So on Saturday morning, I drove to Kingston, Mass, or
Yeah,
Kingston,
that's a
Rhode
place.
Island,
That's a place.
and got the knock box and drove back.
Okay.
They were not supposed to be open, and I told them that.
You understand? You understand that to be the story as well?
Steve and I did have that conversation. Again, I was out of town, so I couldn't oversee it, but they did, the company did go ahead and open up without the proper occupancy permit that weekend.
And it's just stuck in my side. I mean, we very specifically said that Bob had the authority to reduce the bond and to temporarily give you a temporary occupancy. Once he came back on that Tuesday. Yet I went by there and the balloons were out and the whole 9 yards. It was open on Saturday. That can't happen.
I understand that,
That
sir.
can't happen.
I got all on them about that, but that's O'Reilly's does. I wasn't even there. Like I said, I was getting a knock box because I got told I had to have that.
All right, enough said. I just wanted to get that off my chest because
I
it
understand, sir.
bothered me from the day. So I just live up the road from there, so it was like blaring in my face after we had just gone through it and said you couldn't open until Tuesday. Whatever. That's all I got to say on it.
So did they have a temporary, or?
No, they didn't have anything.
That time they had no.
They opened on their own.
They opened 3 days before they had their temporary.
So, we had said that the fire department gave them
There's
the
not much
okay,
you
but
can
that
do
wasn't the
about it
case
now.
either. They had no permit of any type to open, no occupancy permit of any type to open, correct?
That's correct.
All the fire department did was check the alarm system, right?
They were in there, checked the alarm system, told me what knock box I had to order.
And then O'Reilly opened it. So maybe we're talking to the wrong guy. Maybe O'Reilly ought to be in here.
So, moving forward, you're going to address the few issues that were outstanding?
They've already been done. The sod was redone. I have them watering it every day like they should have been doing
Yeah.
out back because there was no sprinkler system. And
Do
the
you have
as-built,
some
as far as
sort
I
of-
know, has been sent.
Did you have some sort of report, Bob? Does he have a report?
I have a report from dated June 5th, and it was, we had some dead sod that had to be replaced and watered. We have some sediment in the basin that had to be dealt with, and then we have a final as-built plan that had all the utilities shown on it.
As far as I know, that was sent to you. The sod has been changed and the settlement's been cleaned up.
Okay, so if I get that as-built plan first thing in the morning, I'll be able to go out there by 10 o'clock, and we can get this resolved by noon time tomorrow.
That's fine.
So basically, you have the sod issue, the silt issue, and the asphalt plan.
The sod's a little tan. They're still watering it. They have a sprinkler out back with a water hose, watering into it. They took the old sod out.
I will go there first thing in the morning, if I can get the as-built plan sent to me
Yep.
first thing in the morning, and then we can put this to
I'll
bed,
be there.
as long as it's okay with the board.
How does this work? Because I don't want to see you get in trouble and so forth, but you're in the North Raynham Water District. There is an outside water ban right now in the Raynham Water District. I know it. I have the card on my refrigerator.
Okay, I didn't know.
No watering till further notice.
I drove back up here last Friday.
I understand. I'm not accused, I'm just
I'll make
saying,
sure
how does
it's-
that work for you guys?
I'll make sure it's taken
Well, they
care of.
face a fine if anything
Yeah,
happens,
it's
and it's not our...
$250, it's $100
deal.
the first time and $250 every time after that. For whatever it's worth, I offer it to you because my lawn's dying out there and I have a sprinkler system that I haven't been able to use yet this year. I just don't want to see you have to pay more money than you need to.
All right, well, that's O'Reilly's doing.
So there's 3 items, from what I understand, the sod, the silt.
The bond, we hold the bond of $5,900.
Okay, so I'd make a motion that we release the bond if, Bob Iafredi determines that the items have been addressed and that the final as-built plan is complete to his satisfaction.
Second for discussion. Yeah, I hate the temporary COs because once they're in and open, they just blow us off from there on. This one really irritates me because they didn't even bother to get that. And the water thing, I hear what you're saying, but on the other hand, how do you,
I know, how do you do what we asked them to do it without water? Well, you can do, you can use handheld hoses, but you can't use a sprinkler of any kind. That's what this restriction is.
Okay.
Whether it be, an oscillating sprinkler or
That's
an
what they-
in-ground system, yeah.
That's what they have out
Supposedly
there.
only handheld hoses can be used. That's what,
Okay.
that's what the little postcard that we all
I
got.
got the detention basin back on the lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know, I
It's
just
out
mentioned
back,
it so
it's
you
out
don't
to
get
sea.
fines.
Yes, sir.
Because they're right behind you there. The water district is right behind you.
Any further discussion?
I just wish we'd do something about the temporaries that never go away and like this, I mean.
No, I agree with you, Burke.
We've got, a bond reduction, we've got their money, we ought to keep some of it as a fine. I don't know that we can, but.
Well, that's, if I may speak, we're gonna keep it for a fine. I had no control over the O'Reilly's opening up. That money is from Pecos Construction. And as soon as Bob got there, he even said, I wasn't even there, because I was in Kingston. I'm not even from here, because he was surprised I drove back up here,
Yeah.
We couldn't tell you weren't from here.
because of my accent.
But he thinks we talk funny.
Is that Maine accent?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think Burke's talking in general, because we've had issues in the past of temporaries that 10 years later, we're trying to clean up bonds, and
Well,
there's issues
also,
that haven't been addressed.
This, we have somebody putting up a bond who isn't the one who's responsible for doing something wrong or making the decisions.
Yeah.
Well, I think if the bond comes from that particular location, it doesn't matter who made it.
Well, if Bob ends up determining that all three issues are taken care of and everything's final,
No, I
it's out
guess,
of our
I
hair.
mean, O'Reilly Auto Parts is gonna get away with something they shouldn't have gotten away with, but, yeah, I'm not gonna fix it.
But
No
we may
no
wanna-
further,
we
no
may-
further comments.
In the future, we may want to put
motion.
something in our regs to talk about if you violate that there is a fine. And we don't care who's responsible for it, that project is going to pay a fine.
Again, we ought to get the people responsible,
Yeah,
but anyway,
well,
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
aye.
aye.
Was that also to release the revolving account?
If you get the okay from,
Once it's all set?
yeah,
Bob said,
it's all
yeah.
set through Bob.
Thanks for coming out, appreciate it.
Okay, the final thing on the agenda was Lorraine Nickerson, Article 24 revision. She's asked, Lorraine had asked me to discuss really two things. There was several people submitted a request. It was actually to the selectmen, but it had to do with our board members. And I'm just going to read it briefly. I don't really want to discuss it much, but 50 people signed a request, so since they did, I think that we should respect their request. It was sent to the Board of Selectmen, and it said, "Please let it be known, we, the undersigned, are requesting that the planning board or the Board of Selectmen as our elected officials to instruct the Raynham Planning Board to earnestly and transparently, with your constituents' aid, to accomplish an amicable revision of Article 24. So that's basically one of her questions, one of her requests. The other one was, we, the undersigned, request Daniel Andrade and Mr. P. Burke Fountain be recused from these planning board meetings on the basis of their business relationships with any and all developers that may profit on the eventual passing of a revised Article 24. The second one I'm going to address first. One, the petitions to the selectmen who are an elected body. The planning board's also an elected body. The selectmen don't have any authority over the planning board. The planning board doesn't have any authority over planning board members. If Mr. Andrade and Mr. Fountain felt that they had issues to, cause them to be recused, that's entirely up to them. If they think that they don't have any, then that's entirely up to them as well. If people feel that there is an issue with any of our members, or any elected official for that matter, their recourse would be with the Ethics Commission, not with the selectmen or not with the board itself. So I'm just putting it out there that I'm respecting that they submitted the request, but if there's an issue, they could take it up with the Ethics Commission. And that's really all I have to say on the article. Does anyone on the board want to say anything?
I guess I'd like to say a little bit. I've been on the board 27 years, and 25 years ago, I owned a house on First Street, and I don't think I represented anybody who owned property on Broadway, and at that time, I was trying to get Broadway rezoned to all business, which is what I thought it should be 25 years ago and what I think it should be today. The second busiest road in town, and it's just a hodgepodge of different zoning, underutilized properties. It's just a mess. I have always felt that, and it has nothing to do with me representing anybody who might own property there. And that's all I have to say.
Just one item of clarification, pick up on something you said, and maybe I'm not reading the zoning maps correctly. Is there any mishmash of zoning on 138, or is it all zone residential D? That whole section, that map that you presented was as part of the public hearing on Article 24, it identifies that whole strip that you wanted to make mixed-use overlay as residential D.
I don't believe so. You have.
I think a number of years ago, that's what we did. We changed all that zoning from residential A to D.
No, only a section.
We don't change the section, but
There's-
that's not really in front of us. I really don't want to go in.
No, but I'd answer his question. There's residential A, there's residential D, there's business, and there is whatever was done after it was too late to stop Walmart. Designated.
Yeah, that was after the fact.
So I think there's 4 different kinds of zoning along a stretch of road a mile and a half long.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. I mean, I'm going to go look at the zoning map again,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
for my
Oh,
own
I might-
edification.
I
And
might
Bob, I
be
would ask
wrong,
you, you
but-
take a look, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't have it here in front of me, but if you had that article here, you had that nice colored map, and that whole strip was colored purple, as a matter of fact. I remember the color. And in the legend, it said purple was residential D. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'm just telling you what I read on that map that you gave us.
So right now,
It-
this
Map is wrong?
Huh? I don't know. All I'm saying is the map shows it as residential D.
to not sidetrack, there's 2 requests. I'd like to put this one
Yep.
request to bed. I read what I think. I read the request, seeing 50, Raynham residents submitted it. I said what I believe. Burke added some things. I'll very quickly go to the audience, but I'd like you to be brief.
Lorraine, at the same place, I'd just like to add that, because we're always being accused of spearheading things, there's no signature on that request that's from First Street, Chickering Road, or any person in residential D. The majority, but 2 signatures are from the middle of town and the other side of town.
He can't hear you, Lorraine. Would you come up to the mic, please, if you could?
Lorraine Nickerson, 36 First Street. I just would like to make a note and say that because they're always accusing the people of First Street and Chickering Road to be spearheading these things, that none of those signatures, except 2, 2 are from the north side of town, but not in the residential D area, and all the other signatures are from the middle of town and the other side of town. Because a lot of people were very bewildered at our town meeting this year, and they also had some input about how to retain our character of our town, and other ideas of what they thought might need to, be addressed and maybe put forth to go in on 138. And there were ideas I've never even heard of myself ever in the past, and I've served on many Route 138 committees. And I really do hope that, the reason we brought this to the selectmen, I did, is because the selectmen seem to be in support of this article, so that's where I thought I should start with this, and that's why it was addressed to them. Joe Citizen here, I didn't know the protocol And I'm glad that, Chris has allowed us to read this tonight instead of having to go get those signatures all over again. And I really do hope that we can really, truly, openly, above board, come to an amicable decision on this, because we've been fighting it for years. I'm quite sick of it. And I think that I've been misled many times, including this Route 138 committee. I thought I was, being earnest and in my thoughts and desires of what I wanted to try to keep out of there, and I don't think I was represented properly by, people that served on the committee with me that have much more knowledge of things than I do. And believe me, if I hadn't had some recent health issues, I could have gotten many, many more signatures. There are people, and not from our side of town, like I said, that are very, very upset about what happened, and they were just very bewildered that our town of Raynham was just, showcased in such a, not a very good fashion. And thank you.
Comments have been noted. The first request we're going to go to now, and that was, please let it be known we, the undersigns, are requesting the plan for the Board of Selectmen as our elected officials to instruct the Raynham Planning Board to earnestly, transparently, with your constituents' aid to accomplish an amicable revision of Article 24. Again, the selectmen can't instruct us to do anything. They could request, but from what I understand, and I talked to a planning coordinator, Bob Iafredi, from what I understand, John Donahue is willing to moderate a forum or forums to get together and discuss this article in the future of 138. I'd be willing to set up, try to get the senior center possibly, maybe Bob could coordinate it. We'd have to have point, if the board would, or if we could just respect their request, and we could see where that goes. I know they had the 138 study committee. I don't see anything bad that could come out of a forum, maybe something good where we could discuss it and maybe come up with an amicable revision. John is a fantastic kind of negotiator, moderator, so I think he would be able to control the crowd, and he's got a great way about him. So I think, I'm glad he's willing to do that. And if the board's okay, I'd like to.
I just wanted to mention, John approached me right after the annual town meeting with that same offer.
And I think going in that direction is a great idea. And I've discussed certain changes with Bob just briefly on, some give and take that could be put in front of people and then open up to other people's input. It may end up a crowd seat. It may end up something that's productive. But I'd like to give it a shot and go that route.
I think we ought to. The only thing I think we need to be careful of is we got to distinguish that from a formal planning board meeting.
Right.
There should be no votes taken.
No.
Because that would constitute a formal meeting, and as we know, there are all issues with that. It's strictly a sit-down, everybody hear their opinion type of forum, what we think is good, what we think is bad, or if we don't like any of it, or we like all of it.
Yeah, the way I
Just got to be careful with that. We don't want to get ourselves in a bind.
The way I envisioned it is, and if anyone has any different ideas, let me know. John would be the moderator. Bob is our planning board coordinator. Along with our input, we'd be there as private citizens.
Yeah, exactly.
But members of the planning board, but not as a meeting.
Yeah, just as private citizens.
And run it that way. So we're not voting on anything, we're just discussing things and seeing if we could possibly come up with some sort of agreement by the end of a few forums where everyone in the room pretty much said, okay, yeah, that's reasonable.
I'm on the Council on Aging board, so if you come up with a date, I'll coordinate it with Liz to get us in there, and I'll have the key.
Because that's what we were hoping to do this, and we'll have to pick dates, people to coordinate it. I know John's connected a lot of people in the area. I know Lorraine is. So I guess, I don't know if you want to coordinate the meetings with Bob, the dates?
Well, I mean, I don't know how we coordinate with all 50 people. We'll never come up with a date.
No,
that way. I mean,
we'll come up with a date, and if they can make it, they can make it. You can't, we're not gonna
Yeah,
coordinate with
yeah.
everyone. We'll coordinate with Lorraine's a point person. You've been a point person, part of it.
Yeah.
And, Dan Burke have been, we've all been involved. So, we could come up with a date.
Yeah, well, I'll
could shoot, I
meet
mean,
with Bob and see what's
what I'm-
reasonable.
what I'm
We're coming up
hoping-
on a tough time of year to
What I was
to
hoping-
get people together.
Do you want to even try to do anything before September?
No, this is what I was
Exactly.
coming back at. What I was hoping is, no one's gonna try to run this back in November.
I hope not.
And that's what we're hoping. And just typically, the town policy is that we don't do zoning articles on special town meetings. With a citizen's petition, you can override that. But it was my hope that the people that put the article forward at the annual town meeting would lay low and work with us on this. And the goal would be try to get something for next May, for the annual town meeting.
I think that's the way to go myself. You'll have to talk to Dan. He was the one that
Yeah.
made the comment at the last meeting that he was coming back hard, bigger and better. So you'll have to talk to him about that.
Okay, well, we'll discuss it, and,
All right,
but-
So we agree we're gonna leave.
I just don't want to
July
get
and
back
August
into
alone.
another town meeting on what just happened and have everybody bickering and fighting and try to do something that could be amicable. I mean, things get ugly, and you don't want it to be like that. I mean, we all live in the same town.
Gotta
and-
tell you, I didn't sleep
You
a
know,
solid night that
and-
whole time.
No, I understand, and I think this is worth a try, whether it works or not. I think it's definitely worth a try, having a forum and having all the people that are so concerned and see if they do show up. But to try to jam it down everyone's throat again, I mean, the way this last thing went was not pretty. And I'd hate to see it happen again. I didn't like how it happened. I didn't like how we all sponsored the article, and none of us knew we sponsored the article.
No.
A lot of things weren't done properly.
By the size of the town meeting, you could tell that a lot of people were concerned.
Yeah, and I think
It's-
a
it's
lot of it
not
was
a-
the transparency,
It's
so
not
I think it's
a
just,
First Street issue. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
concerned about it.
yeah, and so I'd like to shoot for a forum sometime in September. If you all thought we could just enjoy our summer and not think about it and come back in
Yep.
September and set up a forum, and between myself, Bob, Dan, and the rest of the board, John and Russell, we come up with a time we can all meet and get the senior center. And,
I'll arrange to get the senior center once we come up with a date. I mean, as I said, I have the code to get in, and I did have the key. I
and we
gave it
can
back,
maybe
but I
even
get
work
it
out a
again.
small kind of agenda with John and a format, and let him,
You're gonna
MC.
contact John, or am I gonna contact? Who's contacting John? You
Bob
will?
can, yeah.
Okay.
and I think that's wonderful of him. I think that's wonderful of him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
It makes a lot of sense, but,
At the time, by the way, when he approached me, Mr. Noblin was interested in being part of that as well.
okay, no, well,
But just by notice of whoever wants to come,
yeah, it'll
he'd be
be,
included, but I
it'll
just
be
thought I'd let you know
public, yeah.
that. John wanted to sit down
Yeah.
as well.
okay, well, from now till September, I'm sure most everyone will see it, know that it's coming.
Yeah.
And we'll shoot
Yeah,
for
spread the
sometime,
word.
probably mid to late September, once the kids are off to school. And this isn't something to a vote, this is just something to put forth in front of us and see if we all think it might be a good idea, and maybe we can all kind of try to finally, kind of get on the same page and agree and unite and try to get something done.
Well, thank you for your time, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for coming.
And Bob, if you would, just revisit that map that you attached to the article, and see if I'm reading it wrong. If I am, then certainly tell me. I'll be the first one to admit I made a mistake.
And I think, I think Dan is pretty open-minded on a lot of things, and I think he'd be willing to go this route as well. It can't hurt. But with that said, I think we have a couple plans to endorse. Outside of that, I'd make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, everybody have.